Matrix and welcome to Matrix. My name is Luni and I'll be assisting you to get all of your questions through to us. Today we're doing your exam prep to help you with economics. All you need to do to send your questions and comments through is follow Matrix on all of our social media pages and hit us up on our WhatsApp line. The details are on the screen. We've got an assessment for you guys today, so please download the 2Enable app for free on your app store. As always, guys, I've got a cool competition going on for you, so do stay tuned to get all of those details. I'm not alone. Today I've got Keta, our favorite sign language interpreter, as well as Tando, my awesome teacher. Thank you so much, guys, and over to you.
Thank you, Luni. Good day, boys and girls. Like Lunia said, my name is Tando. I'm going to be taking you guys through exam practice as you guys are preparing for your exams. Today we are going to be tackling questions or some typical questions that you guys can expect when you guys sit for your final exams. As Lunia has already said, guys, go and download the app and do the questions that have been uploaded there. Before the end of the session, I'm going to give you guys a guide and try and attempt some of the questions that are on the app with you guys. Let's go straight into the questions that we're going to be doing today. Right? An example of a question that you guys can find on the app is if the national income increases by 200 million as a result of an investment of 50 million, what is the value of the multiplier? These are some of the typical questions that you guys can find in your final exam. Remember, guys, the multiplier question is one of the hot questions that you guys can expect to find in your final exam. Right, so go ahead and tackle this one. I'm going to look at it again before we end the session. Let's move straight to the questions. I'm going to start with questions on our matching column. Right, this is our matching column. I said earlier on when we did a presentation on exam prep that column B is where you find the description, and then column A, that's where you find the terminology. I encourage you boys and girls to read column B first, and then you go look for the answer in column A. For example, let's look at our first one. Right, it says the portion of an increase in income that is not consumed. The portion of an increase in income that is not consumed. The answer at the back of my mind is this is the marginal propensity to save. Right, let's look at column A. Right, my column A goes to the next slide. The answer there is marginal propensity to save 1.25. Then I'll write my 1.25 A there. Right, let's go back and look at the second question. It says exogenous factors influencing business cycles. Exogenous factors influencing business cycles. Typically, when you get such a question in 1.2.1, you would need to get examples of an exogenous factor. For example, our political factors, weather patterns, etc., etc. Remember, exogenous factors, these are things outside the economy. So let's look for an example. Right, we have demerit goods, we have got open market, we have got depreciation. Let's go back. We have got deregulation, special drawing rights, and Phillips curve. So guys, there is always that one question or that one description that does not have an answer in column A. There is always an extra one that can sometimes confuse you. So let's leave that one and go to the next one. It says illustrates the relationship between unemployment and inflation. Illustrates the relationship between unemployment and inflation. There, guys, is our Phillips curve. Let's look for Phillips curve. Our 1.24 is Phillips curve. So the answer there is C. The answer there is C. Let's continue. It says harmful goods, for example, cigarettes. These are demerit goods. So we are looking for demerit goods there from our responses in column A. Demerit goods is 1.26. So 1.26 is our D there. Right, we are continuing. We are continuing. Let's go back. It says a financial instrument distributed among member countries of the International Monetary Fund or the IMF to access funds. A financial instrument that is distributed among member countries of the IMF to access fund. That one is the special drawing right. We've got special drawing right under 1.23. So the answer there is 1.23 is E. Right? Let's continue to the next slide on our terminology. It says the weakening of a currency as a result of market forces. The weakening of a currency as a result of market forces. We are all aware, boys and girls, that when a currency weakens as a result of market forces there, the answer is depreciation. So we are looking for depreciation there. So 1.28 is our depreciation. So the answer is F there, right? We are continuing. It's G now. The removal of rules and laws or any bylaws by the government. The removal of rules and laws or any bylaws by the government. The answer there is deregulation. Let's look for deregulation there. It should be there in the previous slide. Yes, we have it there on 1.22. So 1.22, let me check again. It's the removal, it's a G there. So let's go back. 1.22 is a G there. Right. We are continuing. It says all currencies of other countries in the possession of the South African Reserve Bank. All currencies of other countries in the possession of the South African Reserve Bank there. Our answer should be foreign reserves there. That's our 1.21. It's foreign reserves. So it's G. Our answer there is H. So our 1.21, the answer is H. Right? We are continuing to the last one. It says an economy that is open to foreign trade. An economy that is open to foreign trade. The answer is I, which is our open economy. The answer is I there, which is our open economy. As you can see, guys, all our options have been catered for. Let's check again. 1.21, it's H. 1.22 is a G there. Special drawing rights, which is 1.23, is E. Phillips curve is C. Right? Marginal propensity is A. Demerit goods D. And then open economy I. And then depreciation F. In the event that in the exam you are not really sure of one of the options there, typically you are going to be left with two options that need to match that one that you are not sure of. So I encourage you guys that when you are left, normally it's now a jiggle kind of effect. The answers are just going to fit into normally the last one. You'll find that the last two options that you have, they typically discuss or they describe a similar concept. So then it's now an issue of matching the one that you are not sure of. Please don't leave this section unanswered. It's one of the easy sections because you are given the questions and you are also given the answers to that one. Thank you. I will see you guys in the next segment where we are going to tackle question 2. I'm handing over to Luni.
Thank you, Tando. Guys, we are going to take a quick break. Don't forget to do the assessment on the 2Enable app, and we'll see you straight after this. Welcome back from the breaks, Matric. If you have just joined us, we are still doing your exam prep to help you with the upcoming exam. If you're someone who's constantly running out of data, then this next competition is just for you. Wazo Matrix is bringing you the hashtag Wazo Winner competition, where 2 lucky matriculants stand a chance to win 2 gigs of data. All you need to do to enter is head on over to our Facebook page and all of the details will be there. Tando, thank you so much and over to you.
Thank you, Luni. Matriculants, we are continuing with our revision segment as we are doing our revision prep for paper 1. Right now, like I said, we are moving straight to question 2, where we are going to look at an analysis of a cartoon. Then we are going to attempt the questions. Right, there we have it, guys. I encouraged you guys earlier on to say before you attempt or before you sit for an exam, you need to be updated in terms of your current affairs. You need to know who is our governor, who is our minister of finance, what is the inflation rate, all things that affect the economy as a whole. For example, you are given a cartoon there. We have got Mr. Tito Mboweni there. It says ESCOM budget 2019, and then there is a dialogue there where he's saying, it looks like I'll have to revise the medium-term expenditure framework. So you are required to attempt questions from this or related to this cartoon. Let's look at our questions. So it says, our first question, it says, name any one state-owned enterprise in the country, right? Remember I said, guys, the marks that you get per question, they guide you in terms of how you should approach the question. For example, this one says 1, and it's typically a 1-mark question there. So you need to recall and you need to remember the state-owned enterprises there, right? Let's look at the solutions there. We have got our Eskom, we have got Transnet, we have got Post Office, we have got South African Airways, South African Express, and we also have Denel there. So please don't list more than one, as the examiner is only going to mark the one. So you'll get a mark there for listing any one of those there, right? That was the first question. Let's go to the next question. It says, what is the current VAT rate in South Africa? What is the current VAT rate in South Africa? Again, guys, like I've already said to you guys, I encourage you guys to be abreast with your current affairs. As you can see that typically this is a recall question. It's not something that is related to the cartoon or something that you can take straight from the cartoon. So as you are all aware, our VAT was increased recently. You need to know what it was before, and you need to be aware of what it is now. Here is a typical question that needs you to recall there. Right, what is our VAT rate currently? Boys and girls, this is 1 mark that you cannot miss in the exam. Our VAT rate is 15% there. There is our answer. It's 15% there. Not only do I encourage you guys to know about our tax policy or our fiscal policy, but you also need to be able to link it to the effect it can have to our consumers, to the government, etc., etc. Example, typically, especially with this 15% VAT rate, the 1% increase, you might be asked in the exam to say what is the effect of an increase in VAT on consumers. Obviously, you know consumers are now going to be able to afford less goods and services, etc., etc. So you need to link and you need to be able to link that there. There is the cartoon once again to remind you what we are talking about. The next question says, briefly describe, right, the term medium-term budget policy statement. It's for 2 marks. Briefly describe medium-term budget policy statement for 2 marks there, right? Let's look at the answer there. It says the medium-term budget policy statement, it adjusts to changes in the economy since the main budget. It is based on the medium-term expenditure framework, which is our MTEF, and shares the developments to public policy that will shape the next and upcoming budgets. I'll take it again. The medium-term budget policy statement, it adjusts any changes in the economy since the main budget was uttered there. It is based on the MTEF and shares the developments on public policy that will shape the next and any upcoming budgets there. The mistake that a lot of you matriculants make is you guys confuse between the medium-term budget policy statement and the medium-term expenditure framework. Please have that key word or that one word that is able to make you be able to tell them apart. Typically, the difference or differentiating between the medium-term budget policy statement and also the medium-term expenditure framework is another typical 4 8-mark question where you as the learner might be required maybe to differentiate between the two. So you need also to keep note for that as you are studying. Right, let's go to the next slide, 2.24. It says, explain the relationship between the main budget and the medium-term expenditure framework. Explain the relationship between the main budget and the medium-term expenditure framework. The guide again is your mark allocation there, which is only 2 marks. So you need to briefly explain there. You don't have to go in detail. Right, again, there is our link. We are linking this to our cartoon there. Right, the answer is the main budget is guided by the medium-term expenditure framework, which estimates income and expenditure for a 3-year rolling period. So it says the main budget is guided by the medium-term expenditure framework, which estimates income and expenditure for a 3-year period. So basically what they've done here, or what I've done here, is I've simply explained to you what the MTEF is, or the medium-term expenditure framework there. It's a policy or it's a budget that estimates the income and expenditure for a 3-year period. Remember, boys and girls, in any part of the question paper, in section B and section C, you can use acronyms and abbreviations. You are not allowed to use acronyms and abbreviations in question 1, especially in question 1.1.3 there. So anyway in the paper, you are okay, you are allowed to use acronyms there, right? We are moving right along. Let's look at question 2.2.5. It says, what can the government do to solve the current financial challenges of state-owned enterprises? What can the government do to solve the current financial challenges of state-owned enterprises, right? It's a 2 times 2, meaning to say you need a minimum of 2 points there to explain. Right, now let's go to the answer, right? You should answer your question, or you should respond to your question in full, right? The current financial challenges can be solved by. Then you begin to explain in full sentences, although you are writing in point form there. Number 1, you can ensure that the fiscal and monetary policy management is improved. So you need to show an improvement in the management of the fiscal and the monetary policy there. Right, number 2, ensuring that proper human capital is correctly sourced or obtained. What this point means, basically, boys and girls, is you need to ensure that there is competency in terms of people that are running our parastatals there. Right, let's continue. Number 3, you can talk about strengthening the internal and external audit control systems there to ensure that if ever there are any discrepancies, then they might be identified and correctly dealt with earlier. Number 4, changing management to ensure accountability there. In most cases, you find that in our parastatals, one of the problems there is accountability. So to ensure accountability, you can change management there. Let's continue. Right, so this is typically a 2-mark question, or this is typically a 4-mark question, so you need at least 2 points there to earn the full 4 marks. That was a typical 4-mark question. So now let's move on, boys and girls, and look at a typical 8-mark question that you guys can expect to find in the exam. We have got our 2.4 here, which says, use the graph. Use the graph. Let me just sort my pen out. It says, use the graph below to explain the impact of an increase in exports to China on the value of the rand. Let me take it again. Use the graph below to explain the impact of an increase in exports to China on the value of the rand. Like I said, boys and girls, typically this is an 8-mark question, so you need to be very thorough. Now, let's look at the graph. Right, we have got our graph there which says the price of the yen in terms of the South African rand. So we have got our, and then we look at the quantity of the Chinese yen there. Right, so boys and girls, initially our initial equilibrium, E1 there, or E, let's call that E, our initial equilibrium E there was when the yen, it went for 1 yen as to 2 rands at a quantity of 100 there. So it was 2 rands at a quantity of 100 there. Now, there was an increase in the supply of the yen from S to S1 there, as you can see, and our demand remained the same. Now, the value of the yen has gone down from 1 yen as to 2 rand to about 1 yen as to 1 rand 40 there. Now, our quantity has gone up there. Before we can attempt that question, boys and girls, what I need you guys to understand and what I need you guys to remember in the exam is, as one currency appreciates against another, it means the other is depreciating there. For example, as you guys can see, right, our yen is depreciating against the rand there. Initially, we needed 2 rands to buy 1 yen. Now we only need 1 rand 40 to buy 1 yen. So what it means is, the rand has gained value, the rand has appreciated against the yen there. So even in your explanation, you need also to show that you've got an understanding of the concept, to say that as one currency is appreciating against another, the other is depreciating there. Again, use the words depreciate and appreciate there to show that you understand that what's causing the decrease in the value of the currency, it's forces of demand and supply there. So you use words like depreciate and appreciate there. The mistake that a lot of you make is you begin to explain revaluation and devaluation of currencies in such a question as this. Remember, revaluation, when our currencies revalue, these are deliberate measures, and when a currency devalues there, again, those are deliberate measures. So revaluation, devaluation there, those are deliberate measures. And appreciation and depreciation there, it is due to forces of demand and supply. Right, so let's go back to the question again. It said, use the graph below to explain the impact of an increase in exports to China on the value of the rand. Now, let's look at our responses there. It says an increase in the South African exports or in South African exports to China will shift the supply curve to the right, causing an increase in the demand for the rand there. Let's go back to our diagram. Right, so what happens is the supply of the yen there has increased from S to S1 there, from a quantity of 100 to a quantity of 150. Typically, these are easy questions because what you are simply writing there or what you are simply explaining there is what you guys can see in the graph there. Our quantity or our supply of the yen has increased from 100 to 150 there. Now let's look at the second point. Now you need to explain to say this will lead to an increase in the quantity supplied of the yen from 100 units to about 150 units there. So you are getting 2 marks for the first explanation, another 2 marks for the second explanation. It's a typical 8-mark question, so you need 2 more explanations there. So let's continue. There is our graph once again to remind those probably you're just joining us to say we are explaining the impact on the yen of an increase in exports to China there, right? So what is happening? Can you see that the quantity of the yen has increased and the value of the yen has decreased there. So let's continue. The value of the yen will depreciate. Remember I said very important, the use of the word depreciate and appreciate. The value of the yen will depreciate from 2 rands to about 1 rand 40. Right, as the value of the yen is depreciating, what it means is the value of the rand is appreciating there. So the rand is gaining against the yen there. That's another 2 marks there. Right, let's continue. Right, again, can you see our yen, the value has decreased from 2 rands to 1 rand 40 there. Remember I said you're explaining what you are looking at there. Right, the situation is to be well managed because in the long term, our appreciated currency will make our products unaffordable and exports might decline. Boys and girls, this is very important. So you need to be able to explain, to say as much as we might appreciate that the rand is gaining value against the yen, however, this will make our exports to other countries more expensive, as now people buying our goods are going to require more of their currency to be able to buy the rand, a situation that we might find unfavorable there as we need to promote exports to other countries there. Right, let's move on again. This is another 2-mark question there. The value of the rand has increased in terms of the yen. You are continuing to explain that effect there. That's another 2 marks there. Ideally, you might need to stop here, but I'm just going to give you some also possible answers or possible explanations to that there. Right. One thing that I need to also explain to you guys is normally we are used to or we are accustomed to using the rand versus the US dollar, right? But in the exam, you can expect the comparison of our currency to all these other major currencies. We can look at the euro, we can look at other major currencies, especially as far as our trading partners are concerned, right? This is one of some typical questions that you can find there. Your explanation covers the full 8 marks there. Right, boys and girls, I encourage you guys to practice more typical 8-mark questions. You can find them on the Department of Education website in the previous exam questions. You can Google online, you can find preparatory exams from the different provinces so that you guys can be able and you are well prepared for the exam. That's it for this segment, boys and girls. I'll hand over to Luni to take us to the break.
Thank you, Tando. Guys, we are going to take a quick break. Don't forget to enter the competition to stand yourself a chance to win data. We'll see you straight after this. Welcome back from the break, Matrix. We are still doing your exam prep to help you for the upcoming exams. Thank you so much, Tando, and over to you.
Thank you, Luni. Boys and girls, like I had said earlier on during the start of this segment, right, I encourage you boys and girls to go and do the multiple choice questions on the app. And thank you so much to all those that have managed to do it and that have given me the responses, right? The response was very overwhelming, and I'm just going to sort of like look at one of the questions with you guys. Question 1.11 had said, if the national income increases by 200 million as a result of an investment of 50 million, what is the value of the multiplier? Right? This is one question where we got some confusing answers from you guys. So I'm going to do it again with you guys. I'll take it again. It says, if the national income increases by 200 million as a result of an investment of 50 million, what is the value of the multiplier there? Right, so guys, our multiplier, it's our income y over our investment I there. So we are going to say y over I there, which is, it's k, our multiplier there. It's y over I there, which is going to give us 200 million divided by our initial investment of 50 million. Take out your calculators, boys and girls. If you divide there, you say 200 divided by 50, you are going to get an answer of 4 there. So our multiplier is going to be 4 there. Remember what our multiplier is by definition. It measures how a small change in investment results in a bigger change in our aggregate income. So you need to show that in a particular economy, right, if you were to increase your investment by a particular amount, what is the resultant in the economy? What's going to happen in our economy? What are we going to record on our GDP there? So we are going to record a bigger income. So it multiplies whatever investment we increased by 4 there. So our answer is B for that segment. Our answer is a B there. Right, guys? The multiplier question is one of those hot questions that you can expect to answer in the exam. So you need to be able to calculate the multiplier in both scenarios when you are using the Keynesian model and also when you are using the example there, when you are given the example there, right? So our formula for K, remember, it's K is equals to 1 over 1 minus MP C, which is our marginal propensity to consume there, or you can use the other formula, K is equals to 1 over MPS there, right? It's important, boys and girls, that you use the formula, show you're working in the calculation. And again, if you are inputting your figures into the calculator, remember to put brackets, because the mistake that a lot of you boys and girls make is if you don't put the brackets, especially in your subtraction in the denominator there, most of you guys end up finding or getting an incorrect answer. Remember to put your 1 minus MPC in brackets there. Again, the other method is to use the Keynesian model. If you are given the Keynesian diagram, so you will calculate your multiplier K as K is equals to, remember our small triangle is change in AE over change in investment, which is J there. So it's changed, this is a J, right? Let me write it properly. Right, over the change in J there. Right, so it's change in AE over change in J there. So remember, whichever method you are given in the exam, you need to practice and you need to be comfortable with it.
Tando, we've got a question from our WhatsApp line, so I think we should go straight to that so that you can help answer.
Okay, let's look at the question that Luni just got.
Could you please give me some examples of some essay questions I could expect?
Thank you for that question to the grade 12 learner who's asked the question on some possible essay questions that they can expect in the exam. This is very important, guys, as you are sitting for your exam, to be able to know and to identify what typical question you can find. I hope wherever you are, you've got a copy of the exam guide and you know what essays you can expect. Because from the exam guide that we were given, the 2017 version, it says, wherever it says discuss in detail, that is a typical essay question. Wherever there is a question that says discuss in detail, that is an essay question. Now, let me just go through them quickly with you, boys and girls, some typical essay questions that you can expect to find in the exam, right? The first essay that I'm going to look at, it says discuss the role of various markets in the circular flow without the use of a graph. Discuss the role of various markets in the circular flow without the use of a diagram, right? So when a question says without the use of a diagram, you don't have to draw. What you are required to do in such a question like this, you are required to explain the different markets you can find in the circular flow. Here, boys and girls, you have to explain your product market, you have to explain your factor market, you have to explain your financial market, you have to explain your foreign exchange market. And you remember, boys and girls, in the financial market is divided into two. We have got our money market and we also have our capital market. Remember to explain your points in full and to give examples where necessary. Remember, your essay, it has a maximum of 8 marks that are attributable to examples and also headings. So remember to keep your headings and your examples identifiable there. Typically, when you get an essay on markets, a good additional part should be discuss or explain the multiplier concept with the aid of a well-labeled graph. Right, guys? Normally when they say with the aid of a well-labeled graph for such a question, you are not going to be given any figures, you are not going to be given a concept. All you need to do is you need to be able to draw your Keynesian diagram and to explain what the multiplier is, do your calculations for a maximum of 10 marks there, right? I stress again, guys, the multiplier is a very important concept for purposes of your final exams in paper 1. Practice it, do past exam papers so that you are comfortable with it. Remember, your essay should have an introduction and a conclusion. And the conclusion is higher order difficult. So the first essay is the one on markets. Let's look at the second essay. Discuss the use of the monetary and fiscal policy to influence demand and supply in smoothing out business cycles. Discuss the use of the monetary and fiscal policies to influence demand and supply in smoothing out business cycles. Guys, the other way that they ask this question is when they ask you about the new economic paradigm. So it's under the new economic paradigm. You need to be able to explain the fiscal and the monetary policy and how they are used out there to smooth out any business cycles, right? In such a scenario, boys and girls, it depends on what you want to attempt. For example, if we are experiencing an expansion in the economy, then you need to explain a contractionary fiscal and a contractionary monetary policy. If we are experiencing a contraction in the economy, typically we are looking at our recession and our depression, then you need to be able to explain an expansionary monetary and fiscal policy there. Remember, or use point form there again. Then typically the B part of your essay for 10 marks would be something like, how has the Keynesian, in brackets, endogenous school of thought influenced business cycles? How have the Keynesian, or how has the Keynesian, in brackets, endogenous school of thought influenced business cycles? Right, you need to demonstrate your knowledge of what endogenous school of thought is. So you need to have an in-depth discussion on the use of the Keynesian model. Remember what the Keynesians argue. The Keynesians argue to say our economy is inherently unstable. When they say inherently unstable, it means it is in the nature of the economy to be unstable. As such, we need monetary and fiscal policy to fine-tune the economy there. So you need to explain and demonstrate your understanding of Keynesian there for 10 marks. So that's our essay number 2, right? Our essay number 3, it says discuss in detail various indicators used in forecasting there, right? If you get a question like this, boys and girls, this is an exciting question because they did not cap it. Normally you would find a question that says discuss economic indicators, right? But this one, it left it open, so there is a lot to discuss there. So you can look at your leading indicators, you can look at your lagging indicators, you can look at your extrapolation, you can look at all the examples of indicators that you can find out there. A good starting point would be to use previous exam questions or to use your mind the gap to check, because it gives you clearly the indicators, listing them and explaining them there. Remember to explain and to give examples there, right, for 26 marks. There is a lot that they can ask you as your B or your additional part of the essay there, so be open to what they've been asking in past exam papers. I think this question was there in 2018, right? I'm not sure if we can expect it again, but just be on the lookout and be knowledgeable on it, right? Our 4th essay, it's under public sector. It says evaluate problems of public sector provisioning in South Africa. Evaluate the problems of public sector provisioning in South Africa there for 26 marks there. So when you get again a question like this, Mind the Gap gives you a song on how to attempt this one. It's your always eat apples, pears, peaches and pineapples. You remember the song. I'm sure your teachers have actually shown you guys the acronyms to this one. So you're talking about your accountability, your efficiency, your parastatals, etc., etc. So like I said, there's an acronym for this in Mind the Gap. Boys and girls, I encourage you guys, for purposes of your essays, I encourage you to find a way, a suitable or a comfortable method of remembering. Some sing their essays, others do acronyms, etc., etc. Whatever helps you remember. Remember, an essay is an important part of your exam, so you need to be very comfortable. Find a way of remembering an essay in the exam. One of them is or might be there in the final exam. Then outline examples of problems with regards to public sector provisioning you have observed in your own community or elsewhere in South Africa. So typically, this is a question that requires you to sort of like link what is happening in our economy to what we learn at school. So you can even give an example of things that you have observed in your community. You can talk about corruption, you can talk about bureaucracy, where sometimes people are hell-bent, or the service providers are hell-bent on following rules and other things instead of giving the service there. So whatever you have observed in your community, as long as you are able to back it up with examples, your answer, or you might be safe with your answer there, as long as it's something that you have observed in your community. Then the next question that we have there is discuss the macroeconomic objectives of the state in South Africa's economy. So these are objectives of the state in South Africa's economy. Right, this one, guys, it needs you to be abreast with your current affairs. We are looking at things like our full employment, we are looking at economic growth, we are looking at price stability. So you would find that when you are now explaining price stability in an essay like this, you need to quote what is currently happening in the economy. State what is our inflation target, 3 to 6%. What is our current inflation rate? So you need to quote, our inflation is currently sitting at this, our target is currently sitting at this. Are we within the target or we are outside the target? So you need to be able to explain that there. And then typically for additional part, you will find evaluate the extent to which South Africa or South African government achieved these objectives now. Now you look at them one by one. Again, it's a current affairs kind of question, so you need to be able to link. What is our employment statistics sitting at? What is happening to our inflation rate? What is happening to our economic growth in terms of our real GDP, etc., etc. Then the final one is export promotion, import substitution. This one you might be asked to give reasons, methods, advantages, and disadvantages there. They normally are going to ask you either export promotion or import substitution. The 2019 paper had export promotion, so you might expect anything there. You might get import substitution, or export promotion might come again. Right, boys and girls, I encourage you to practice using past exam papers. Read instructions carefully. Don't over-answer the question. Manage your time, and I wish you guys nothing but the best. All the best, boys and girls. Over to you, Luni.
Thank you, Tando. Matrix, we're wishing you everything of the best for the final exams. Please prepare yourselves well so that you can ace those exams. Send us any questions and comments that you may have so that we can assist as best as we can. Congratulations to all of our competition winners who will be announced on Facebook after the show. Don't forget you can get study material as well as check out our schedule on www.wazamatrix.co.za. If you missed any of the shows, guys, they are available on our YouTube channel. So do subscribe, give it a big thumbs up, and watch all of those shows that you've missed. But then from me, Luni, Keta, as well as Tando, thank you and goodbye.
Woza Matrix 2021 Catch-Up is brought to you by the Department of Basic Education, NECT, ETDP SETA, SABC, MultiChoice, and DBE TV on OpenView Channel 122 in partnership with